As a young student of anthropology at the University of Virginia, I was quickly introduced to the work and notoriety of Margaret Mead. I guess we thought she was one of the only working anthropologists at the time. And while I was more a fan of her mentor, Ruth Benedict, I remember reading a dog-eared paperback copy of Mead's 1928 classic, Coming of Age in Samoa. And I honestly didn't read much more by her, as I considered her, a sellout and a pop anthropologist. Like many other things I believed in my youth, my opinion of Dr. Mead was not only unjust, it was wrong. A recent article in Forbes magazine has once more put Margaret Mead in the spotlight. The writer attributes to Mead the following story. Years ago, anthropologist Margaret Mead was asked by a student what she considered to be the first sign of civilization in a culture. Well, the student expected Mead to talk about fish hooks or clay pots or grinding stones. But no, Mead said that the first sign of civilization in an ancient culture was a femur, the long thigh bone that had been broken and then healed. Mead explained that in the animal kingdom, if you broke your leg, you died. Because you couldn't run from danger. You couldn't get to the river for a drink, and you couldn't hunt for food. Essentially, you became meat for prowling beasts. No animal survives a broken leg long enough for the bone to heal. A broken femur that is healed is evidence that someone has taken time to stay with the one who fell, has bound up the wound, has carried the person to safety, and has tended the person through recovery. Helping someone else through difficulty is where civilization starts, Mead said. Well, in my youthful arrogance, I might have discounted Dr. Mead's assessment of civilization as oversimplified or naive. She was, after all, a cultural anthropologist, and we archaeologists tended to put them on the nonsense scale right below our colleagues who managed to get grants to study their neighbor's garbage. But lest I digress too far, let me say that 40 years beyond my youth, I'm still not sure about a healed broken femur being an early sign of civilization. But it does have everything to do as a sure sign of the arrival of humanity. Whether you believe humankind sprang from the earth in the midst of a garden, or developed over billions of years from a primordial soup, doesn't really matter. Both are true in their own way. But be assured that God was involved. Mankind, unlike any other creature on earth, has the ability to assign moral value to everything she encounters, and to act contrary to instinct when it pleases her. And she does. And we do. And that is the gift of God. Will, or free will, distinguishes we humans from all other animals on earth. Other animals are bound by instinct to act a certain way under certain circumstances. They do not appear to be able to do otherwise. Humans, however, while sharing many instincts with animals, through the gift of free will are able to put aside that drive of instinct and do what seems to be contrary to self-preservation. You've heard the old story about two men lost in the jungle without weapons. The first hunter says, well, what if we meet a tiger? We can't run faster than a tiger. And the second hunter thinks for a moment and then says, well, I don't have to run faster than a tiger. I just have to run faster than you. And that is the instinctual animal. That is the human animal. The survival instinct pushes us to save ourselves at all costs. But when your companion breaks a leg and you attend him for weeks at risk to yourself, you are the free will animal that values something over self-love and self-preservation. And that is what Jesus speaks of in today's gospel reading from John. This is my commandment, John tells us. This is my fondest desire, my purpose for coming to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. But what do you mean, we ask? What does it mean to love each other as you have loved us? Well, no one has greater love than this, Jesus said, to lay down one's life for his friends. Now, Jesus was not exactly calling us to martyrdom. He was simply expressing how much he loved us. Enough to forego all instincts to the contrary and save us rather than himself. Well, that's real love. And that's the type of love Christ desires us to experience. And we can experience. We can experience it, both the giving and the receiving. It's not hard. It really isn't. In the excerpt from John's first letter to the church we read today, John assures us that Christ's commandments are not burdensome, for they are born of God, and God wants us to succeed. God wants us to be able to experience love that can conquer the world. But it's hard. It's too hard to love simply everyone, we say. Some people are unloving and unlovable. It's an impossible task. Well, if that's the case, you're doing it wrong. If you cannot love those you call unlovable, you're still that human animal relying on instinct and fear to preserve your life. You run from conflict and threat, and you disregard the God-given capacity for divine love. That divine love that defines what it truly is to be human. Love need not be burdensome. Love need not be conditional. I've long fallen back on Shakespeare's description of the constancy of love, and I've wondered if perhaps it wasn't divinely inspired. In one of his sonnets, Shakespeare says, "Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark, that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. This is the type of love God has given us, and the type of love God desires that we share with one another, with everyone, all others, everywhere, all the time. So how will future generations remember us at this close of the Christian era? Will they see us as fearful, instinct-driven animals who would not stay and tend the broken leg of our fellow traveler in life because he didn't agree with our beliefs? Will they remember us as shallow, self-serving animals who would not guard and feed our wounded companion because she was loud and impatient? Will they decide that we were callous and uncivil because we would not bring water from the stream for our helpless invalid because he said something about us that we didn't like? God forbid we would ever be remembered like that. If we truly live as Christ desired, future generations will see us as civilized and human. They will see us as protecting and nurturing and healing each other. It's not hard to do. It really isn't. We have the God-given capacity to do it. We simply have to decide. We have to decide to be human. And it's as simple as that. Thanks be to God.